This week on the Innovators Insider Podcast, we've got our regular model of the week. We're going to talk about some tiny houses and the tiny house project that's been going on. We've got some news and notes from the Onshape world. But first of all, my co-host, the professor, Michael LaFleche, is going to talk about the latest Onshape releases and give us the deep dive. How are you today, Michael?
I'm doing good, Richard. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Looking forward to the show today.
Yeah. I'm really pleased to be able to, share some of the improvements to Onshape for the last couple of updates. There's some months that we have actual two releases show up in the, during the month. So this one, we had one on the first of the month and then a few weeks later. So I wanted to catch everybody up on some of the improvements that our team has been hard at work on. Maybe you've already had a chance to try out some of these improvements, and happy to hear what your thoughts are in the comments of what, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you want to put your comments in the forum. There's a number of places you can share your comments, but really the general improvements is what I want to kind of start with first. So let me share my screen. If you're following along on the YouTube version of the podcast, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. If not, you can go right to the forums page, inside of the Onshape forums, and find exactly what I'm showing you here. I might even pop in and look at my own account here. So back on October 1st, here's my colleague Nacho, who has been in charge of the publication of the What's New update in that release. Nacho is a really cool guy, and he does a great job, working with customers. He's really pretty cool. So shout out to Nacho.
Just a quick aside, Michael. Nacho participated in a little group chat with some students in the Dallas-Fort Worth area just last week. Had an instructor reach out looking for younger folks that could talk about engineering and design and how they got into it. And from what I heard, the feedback I got from the instructor was he did a fantastic job. So
yeah,
kudos to Nacho.
Awesome. So some of the really, really cool improvements from that particular update were really related to how you share. That was the first thing that you'll see right here. So let me, I can hit the play button and just turn down the volume. We don't need to hear the volume. But this particular update right here allows you to take any kind of parameter that you've set up in a model. So let's say we have this instance where we have this pneumatic cylinder, and it has different configurations that you want to show. Maybe you want to show the exploded view. Perhaps you want the bill of materials to look exactly the right way. And you can see that little copy button at the top of the screen next to the name of the document. You hit that little button, and that will copy the URL of everything that you've kind of set up here. And if you put that link in anywhere, like in, Slack, Twitter, email, whatever it might be, when you give somebody that link, they will see exactly, what you wanted them to see without you having to make sure, oh, hey, would you mind rotating the model like this? Oh, you want to hit this button to open the bomb. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Just give them a link and they'll have exactly what you want, right? And we'll put a little sample of that in the release notes here for the podcast so that you can see how that works. But I highly encourage you to try this out. It doesn't require any kind of sign-in information as well when you're doing this. You just kind of click the link and it opens up in the web browser of your choice. So it's really something that's pretty impressive. No other design system that I'm aware of can allow for this level of sharing. And Richard, if there's anything that you see here, just jump on out and talk about it.
Oh, you're just about to scroll down to my favorite area, and that's drawing improvements.
Drawing improvements.
I think our listeners know that I like to do drawings, and anytime we can show any kind of improvement or new functionality with drawings, it just gets me really excited. And there are a couple here that are really nice.
Yeah, like this first one, hiding the little placeholders. It seems like a little minor thing, but if a property is not filled in, you can see like the animation here. See if I can zoom in just a little bit on the screen here. as Lindsay is showing here. You can see that, here we're showing that the approver is not filled out, right? But if it's not filled out, like, why do you need to see that? So, it's just a simple kind of quality of life thing. This one was a really big one, I think. The ability to, properly foreshorten the diameter dimensions. So, when you're doing a detail view blown up like this, you don't need to like show the center line where it's coming from. When you're doing a dimension, you can only see one side of the extension line. These are all the tricks that we would do as draftsmen, back in the day to make a good looking drawing and make it readable, of course. I assume you've done this in the past, Richard.
That's one of my favorites with this release. Yes.
Yep. So it's, it works like you would expect. You just kind of, right click on it and you can display it in a foreshortened diameter dimension. So you just right click it and it's right there.
Nice.
Yeah. How about this one, Richard? What do you think of, the revision table on drawings?
Anything that we can do that allows our customers to customize their interface, I'm all for, always for.
Yeah, this is really interesting for me because, the revision table, sort of feels like a holdover from the old drafting days before we had a database-driven kind of system where you want to put the rev block up in the corner of the drawing showing all the released versions and revisions. We've had that in Onshape now for quite some time, and it's actually, it really works, right? I've used other CAD systems in the past, as you know, and I've been PDM manager, and this stuff just never worked with the PDM systems that I had been involved with over the years. But with Onshape, it just works, right? You just do your revision, and it updates it, and you have a new row in the table, right in your drawing automatically. The improvement here is that now you can set up templates for these revision tables, so you can have the columns that you are interested in seeing. And, those templates can be shared at a company level, right? So in your company settings under release management, you just set these columns up the way you want. You can even force uppercase. Everybody likes their block lettering in uppercase. Look at this. You can even drag and drop the columns right here. And now that is going to be, available as a standard template here for everybody else making drawings. So done right,
Yep, absolutely. All uppercase. I love it.
All uppercase. This is taking, the approver property column here. That's showing the initials, right? Where, that was something new we added, 2 or 3 releases ago. So you can see everything kind of comes together, as the improvements and the agile methodology that Onshape deploys in every 3 weeks. If we put something in like, text for initials for approvers instead of the full name, you can probably expect that we're also thinking about other places where this information can be used. So that's just kind of the way we're thinking. Some enterprise improvements. If you're an Onshape Enterprise subscriber, you can, we've had the ability to bulk load users, right? If you have like a group, 5-10 people, you want to add them all at once, and you have them, as a CSV file, which is actually a common export that you get for like, if you have like a Microsoft, LDAP server or something, and you want to like get all your user lists out, you can get them out in a CSV file, most likely, and you can bring that in to Onshape's user list in just a second. The improvement here is now you can remove users just as easily. So if you have a group that maybe it was a joint venture or some other group of users and you want to bulk remove them, it's easy, so, some people forget that, you really want to get people in front of CAD right away, and you want to make it easy to get users in, but it's almost more important to get the users out when the job is done. So like, nobody has access to things that they shouldn't have access to. Some basic API improvements as well. Right here in an enterprise account, you can see any kind of webhooks if you've set up any kind of custom application programming interface calls. You can see them here as a webhook, and you can also, make sure that they're secure, right? Because you have these keys that you can work with. So a bit over, what we can talk about today in the podcast, but know that, the API with Onshape, everything's done in a highly secure kind of authenticated way. You're not running macros on your local machine. This is a very secure way of running automation. And, this is just making it easy, right, to share this information with your Onshape Enterprise administrators. Oh, and here's a bunch of Learning Center stuff. You're a big fan of Learning Center, right, Richard?
I'm a huge Learning Center. Was the first place I hit once I created my Onshape account, and it served the purpose of teaching me how to Onshape very quickly.
Yeah, so there's an events tab now, which I thought was pretty cool. You can see any kind of live events that you might be enrolled in. There's more video updates, so just take a look at the what's new. There's a ton of new courses. The Master Model Self course, which is good for doing you have a sketch and you want to use that sketch across 5 or 6 different documents because you want to have some kind of standard thing that you want people to work with, right? Pretty powerful way of doing parametric modeling, and a ready to use top-down pathway for learning, more than just the master model technique, but other kind of in-context assembly design techniques. And then, if you haven't done this already, if you haven't taken your Onshape certification, definitely give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. It's good to have that as part of your resume or your quiver. And the improvement here is now you can just click a button to add this certificate right to your LinkedIn profile.
Excellent.
By the way, you can always look at the change log to kind of get a list of all of the things in kind of generic format, right? So, we were talking about the October 1st release, which was, release 137. And then 138, we'll hop into that next, which was released on the 25th. So it still feels like just yesterday, but it's, the time is flying by really fast. This one was a really big one for a lot of our customers. The first improvement that was highlighted in the October 25th release was the whole feature improvement. So the interface of the whole feature really hasn't changed that much, but the user experience is improved. Essentially, it performs better. There's less for it to have to do behind the scenes, and it's also more powerful because you can also, I should have mentioned that you can start from a sketch plane. That is kind of a newer thing when you're putting a hole in. This video, on the What's New page will show it, but
with this update, we
let me
have
just
completely
hide that. Make this full screen. But, putting in, here we go. Let me just pause this right here just to show you the performance improvement from the whole feature then and the whole feature now, right? Going, from 2.92 seconds for, hole number 1 here to 711 milliseconds. So you'll see quite a bit of performance improvement on new holes that you've added to your design. So definitely, if you have a problem, kind of a feature, a hole that's taking a long time to regenerate, you might just reconsider replacing it with a brand new hole, and that will take advantage of the performance improvements there. But by far, the most impressive thing in the update is the expansion of where used, which was released, almost a year ago, maybe more now, for the enterprise users. Now is available for all Onshape professional users. And yeah, it's really good.
This is huge. This is a big one. I spent many, many years as a designer / document control manager. And where used is one of the very first functions that a document control manager uses when any kind of a change comes along. It's one of the most important things that can be part of a document.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're doing design work, you want to ensure that, let's say you're using a certain type of mounting plate, like on this motor, that if you change that plate, will it change in other assemblies where that's being used? It's like your prime thing that you should always be checking for before you make any kind of design change or decision is to look for all the other places where a particular component could be used and could affect other components down the line. And, because Onshape has version control built in from the very beginning of your design, this is automatically the best where used system ever created, because all that time you've been using Onshape, it's indexed and has captured, really is the better word, where these components are being used throughout the history of your design. It works with configurations. It works with versions and revisions. You can see that there's a nice colorful menu here that'll kind of give you an idea of where, that motor and gearbox is being used, and you can even drill on down in. So if you find an assembly that's using a particular component, you can drill right on down, right to the drawing level even. And from there, you can get a preview of it and directly jump to where you want to go. So it's you just open in a new browser tab by right-clicking on an object in the list, and you'd be able to go to the affected drawing to that particular version. It's really right there in the CAD environment at your fingertips, and you can filter the results, in a variety of ways, right? You can even see the status in a color-coded kind of fashion. It shows you the part number at the time. So very, very powerful version-based where use capability. And if you bought Onshape 4 years ago and you were an Onshape professional user and you went into Onshape now, you would see that all of this is ready for you. You didn't have to do any deployment. You didn't have to do any kind of consulting job or anything like that, like you would with any other PDM system when you're doing a deployment after the fact. You just have it. It's almost magic. So just the fact of how the platform was built. So definitely check this out. What else would you say?
And that's the key, how the platform was built. A file-based system, all you have to do is rename one file or move one file, and it blows this whole thing to smithereens.
Yeah, indeed. More drawing improvements for you, Richard?
Yep, open arrowheads are fine. That's a nice little addition.
It's actually
something that not something necessarily that I would use, but again, anytime we can provide those kinds of options for our customers, I'm all for it.
It's actually for Japan. So in Japan, the GIS standard uses open arrowheads like that. So this was one I was proud to help get in, because we have people in Japan that want to use Onshape, right? And, this is one of the stylistic indicators of a Japanese drawing is the open arrowheads. This is a big drawing one, Richard. I almost I've been using Where Used a lot since I use the enterprise plan personally. But this is a big kind of starting point for inspection items inside of drawings. If anybody's created drawings that need to be inspected, everything, right? Every single part is inspected typically. Excuse me. You will be able to bubble your drawings. So I think, best workflow for this, and let me just play the video. I think I'll talk over it here, but on any drawing now,
This release highlights.
You can tag dimensions or notes, geometric tolerance frames, things like that with inspection bubbles. I think the best workflow would be to take your released drawing, duplicate the released drawing, and then bubble, a copy of the released drawing, making sure that is still calling out revision A or revision B of the drawing. So that way you have one drawing for your released kind of print, then you have a QA drawing, that will have all the inspection bubbles on it. Typically that's a workflow that I've seen out in the real world when I've been involved with this stuff. And you can see how easy it is. You just kind of click a dimension and it will auto increment the number up for you. You can have any style you want controlled at a template level if you wish. And all of these inspection bubbles will magically be available in a comma separated value CSV file, which you can open in Excel and do further work on, right? Most quality control departments will have an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet or something like that. And they will have a list of all of the dimensions, and they will have a list of the actual tolerances, that were prescribed. And then the person on the incoming inspection will have that spreadsheet, and then they can, take their pair of calipers out, measure the part. If they have a CMM, if they're fancy, right? They can do that and get the number. But when you do the export, all you have to do is export the drawing as an inspection list, and then you get this format that you see right here, an Excel spreadsheet. Just gotta go back. That was a little fast there, but you can see it's just dumping out the numbers, type of annotation it is, and you can actually. I've written a little macro in Excel and in Google Sheets to to just format it the way I wanted. So each company might have their own format. There's industry standard formats for aerospace and for medical and automotive, PPAP, and there's first article forms, and there's all these different things. What do you think of this, Richard?
I like it. I like it a lot, and it's done very well. And like you say, there's some comments in the forums from some of the developers that are looking for further ideas on this particular functionality. So get in there and send in your enhancement request for this.
This is something that you have to buy typically as an add-on for a lot of CAD systems out there, and at least you got the basic output right here. You can format it any way you want. And as you said, Richard, we're looking for further ideas on this. This is just step one. Some more API stuff and more Learning Center stuff, of course. So let's see, self-guided training format, Onshape Enterprise for light users. I actually like this class right here a lot. I'm going to click into it. A light user in the world of Onshape Enterprise allows you to do a few things that the normal free viewer does not allow for. A light user can actually sign off and approve on things throughout the workflow. And you can kind of see more information about what a light user is doing in your organization. So now we have a nice course because a light user isn't typically a CAD person. All they need to do is know how to kind of interact with the interface and do sign-offs and approvals. So there's a little course here on that, and they even threw in a little touch gesture stuff on mobile device, which I thought was a nice add because we have a mobile version of Onshape, might as well highlight it, right? So that is what I wanted to cover on the what's new in the last month of October. It's really quite a bit of stuff there. I think everybody will take something good away from that.
Yep. I know I did.
I'll stop sharing my screen here.
So as long as we're talking about Onshape and improvements to Onshape and how great Onshape is, why don't you take us into the model of the week, Michael?
I think that's a great idea. So the model of the week is from somebody that's been very friendly in the user group community and has developed a very nice kind of history project, I think I call it, on one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world, coffee. So let me share my screen again. And we'll put a link here, of course, in the podcast for people listening audio only in the car. Unless you feel like pulling over and opening up the Onshape app or something and pulling up the link, feel free. But here we are. So it's a beautiful manual press espresso machine, Italian, right? And this is a beautiful. It's going to make a beautiful cup of espresso. And this is something that, let's actually go back to the main Onshape page. Take a look at this here. It's John Hawk. He's shared his kind of a Google Doc here, doing the Onshape way of sharing, which I love. You can see, links to various pieces of information relating to this lever style espresso machine, and his contact information. So we really appreciate the hard work that John has done on this espresso machine. I can't believe how cool, he's made this design right here. I mean, of course, here you got the lever working, right? So we can, interact with it that way. Perhaps we do a quick section view, right through here to kind of see what's happening, as we move the plunger up and down. In fact, maybe I flip that direction so we can see it better. Right? So you can see the press, which would act on the nice espresso grind, that you have in there. And this is the light user interface that you're kind of seeing here with the pop-up toolbar, because it was just a view-only document. Now, notice here in the upper left-hand quadrant, he's got all the different historical versions of this over time. Right here's the 1978 version, of the espresso machine, which probably didn't have lots of wiring or anything. It was very manual and stuff, right? So if we hit the letter Y button on the keyboard, there's a couple of wires here, of course. He actually did a great job in all the wiring work, inside of here.
Yeah, the detail is amazing there.
Yeah. So let's go to there's 1961, right? And that's what it looks like. Then, so these are all the different generations of part numbers that you could buy for this espresso grinder over time. Really interesting way of managing, the information in here, which boiler is being used. That's all being configured, of course, in the system. Let's see if he put any exploded views in. Oh, he does have exploded views. Oh my goodness. So lots of work has gone into this, and I highly encourage you to take a look at this.
That is quite a document here.
Yeah. It's my favorite thing, coffee. So,
John is participating in the tiny house project, and I have a feeling that I'm going to be making some coffee in my tiny house.
Nice. My if anybody's ever seen me give a demonstration of Onshape, I typically, let me stop sharing my screen so I can show you what I typically demo. This is the actual real life coffee grinder demo that I've probably given 1,000 times to users over the years, and it's actually a real machine that I used to use every day until recently. I just upgraded to a Burr style, kind of fancier coffee grinder. So this is in retirement now, but nice. This is the actual coffee grinder that's famous in the lore.
Some years ago, I read an article on something they called historical architecture. And what it was a CAD person who was recreating older objects in CAD, very similar to what John's doing here with his coffee press. And I actually modeled a couple. I modeled a theremin, if you know what a theremin is.
What's a theremin?
That was a lot of fun. I found a lot of information out on the web and modeled it up. And maybe it's time to revisit some of that stuff in Onshape again.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what's a theremin?
Theremin is actually a musical instrument that's played by waving your hands in front of electronic signals, and it actually generates sounds. Google it. You'll find some great examples. You also find an example of its use in an episode of The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon plays the theremin. My other model was a Stirling engine. I think everybody knows what a Stirling engine is, and there's so many variations of that that you could spend months modeling different variations of those. So I like designing things from scratch, or at least I did back when I was a designer. But also, I guess you'd call it copying things, if you will, because it can be a lot of fun, and you can recreate digitally something that maybe meant something to you in your childhood or in previous years. So if you love doing CAD, those are the kind of things you love to do.
Yeah, totally. So what else are we talking about today, Richard?
Well, I think we're speaking of the tiny house project. That's moving along pretty good. Let me go ahead and share my screen because I've got some information on that. And we are going to go over here to the Onshape forums.
Nice.
So for those of you that aren't familiar, the Finish Richards Tiny House is a fun community project. No awards, no gold medals, just something that Brian LaGrange thought would be a fun idea to do and share with the community. So the idea is I have basically been designing this tiny house for a couple of years, and things are going along really well. But I got to a point where I thought, I'd like to see some other people's ideas. So let's open it up to the community and let's see what kind of really great or even really wacky things that the community could design for my tiny house. So we've got a couple of examples in here so far. This is one that I did. This is a cabinet that I've been working on, and thank goodness I used the proper design intent because it certainly doesn't fit the way it's supposed to. So we'll be fixing that. I've done a little work on the bathroom, added some shower stuff and some tile. This was kind of a crazy idea that I came up with to heat the place. This is based on the Ivanpah solar plant outside of Las Vegas here in Nevada. Basically takes the sun rays and directs them to a boiler, which boils water and then runs the steam generator. I haven't figured out all the science behind it yet, but it was a fun idea. Not as fun as the vertical power source or a vertical windmill. I think we'll be looking at that as possibly the next one. And then Brian LaGrange has come up with a nifty little barbecue, folding barbecue that I can use outside the tiny house on a deck that I assume somebody will eventually design for me. So a lot of these things are coming along. And we've got a meeting set up now for November 23rd. And if you go over to the Onshape website, go to onshape.com and click on the user group network at the bottom of the page, you'll find our user group calendar. And you can find all of the meetings that are scheduled for the next month or so. This particular meeting will be held November 23rd at 6 p.m. Central Time. And we've got a lot of great folks from the forums that are participating, including John Huck, John McClary, Chad Stolfus will be writing a feature script. I think we're looking at possibly Evan Reese doing the same. So lots of folks from the forums that are getting involved in that project. Something I ran into just the other day, it seems my tiny house project has gone international. This is a children's education program in South America, and they've decided to use the basis of my tiny house as one of their school projects, and they promised to share with me anything that they designed for the tiny house. So I've been in touch with Eduardo on this project, and I'm looking forward to what the kids have coming up.
That's awesome. What a great thing to see that. To see it out there in different parts of the world now. It's a really cool topic. It's a really cool topic.
And I appreciate the people that are participating. Like I say, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the stuff that they've come up with. Again, November 23rd, 6 p.m. Central. Click over to the onshape.com, go to the user group page, and click on the calendar link. That will send you to the registration page. So I hope everybody will join us for that meeting. I'm looking forward to it.
Amazing.
And that's the Tiny House Project. So before we end the show, there's a couple of things. Last episode, we talked about the total cost of ownership. We've also talked about the state of product design. And I just wanted to remind folks that they can still find those ebooks. The sticker shock, the invisible costs of CAD is what we talked about a little bit last week. You can find those on the onshape.com website. Also, the state of product development and hardware design 2021. This is a great report. Another one. These are free. All you have to do is, just kind of give us your email address and we'll take it from there. So I just wanted to remind folks about that. Check those ebooks out, download them. Michael, there was one other that you mentioned that I didn't recognize at first.
Yeah. This one was. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I contributed a little bit to it. Preventing product design bottlenecks. 6 ways your file-based CAD system slows your company down, and giving you some prescriptive ideas on how you could do it. Hint, Onshape. But there's obviously things that you could take from this, even if you weren't looking for a new CAD system or anything like that. But everybody has seen this yeah, everybody has seen the words or uttered these words before that are in these bubbles on the page, right? I mean, I guarantee
oh, yeah.
it. Every single person has had.
I'm reading through them right now going, yep, that one, that one, that one, that one.
I think I've probably said all of them. But yeah, this is just kind of going through, a lot of people consider these problems just, they take them for granted, right? It's just, the way life is.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be this way. Why would we, why would we live with all of these problems if there was a way of correcting these issues on those cloud words, right? So this really kind of goes into that in a little bit more detail, talking about problem and solution statement, right? For example, blocked communication and collaboration using file-based CAD systems. Engineers use, different ways to manage their data. And then if they want to share with somebody else, and there's another way they're going to share it, right? So, with Onshape, you just hit the big blue share button and they have it, just like, any modern cloud native system, that is, out there. You just hit the share button, share them in, right? So it's totally the way of working. So definitely go to the Onshape website. Look at this ebook. It's not long. We've made a concerted effort. If you've seen ebooks in the past, they may have been longer. Now they're a little shorter. I think it's easier to read, and you'll have a lot of fun reading it. At least hearing those words uttered. Hopefully you won't have to utter those words again. So I will
fantastic.
Put that link, in the notes of the show.
We'll do the same.
Yeah.
Well, we sure put out some good stuff, don't we, Michael?
I concur. Yes.
Yep, those ebooks are fantastic. So I guess that pretty much wraps it up for today. What do we have coming up next time?
Yeah, I'm excited that we're going to interview an Onshape employee. His name is Jay Tedeschi. Great history, great engineering historian. Is how I'm pegging him right now. He's has so many stories over the years of his design world. When we interview him, it's going to be hard to keep it under an hour. I think he has so many stories. He's such a great guy, and he's worked with CAD companies in the past. His room is going to look really cool. He works out of a garage, in his office together.
Yep,
so it's
I've
really cool.
seen that background on Zoom.
yeah, it's wicked cool. So,
yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll still have some time to talk about the latest Onshape release. I assume we're gonna have one between now and the time that we record our next episode. And since our next episode will drop right around the Thanksgiving Day, I think we'll have some Thanksgiving stuff to talk about. So,
gobble.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you again, Michael. And great show today.
Yeah, totally. This is great. Thanks, Richard, and thanks everybody. See you all next time.
Yep. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We have to say that every time, right?
Yeah, we do. All right. See you all later. Bye.